I meant what I said, and I said what I meant, and then now I spend the rest of my time proving that. And so the more I prove it by actions, words, deeds, commitments, following through, the more she learns to trust it. And then the more she learns to trust it, the more she learns to trust me, the more the relationship gets better, and the more we continue to grow. But those are very mutual things in our relationship, in our core values of we both need to continue to grow.
In today's busy world, how can we find the inspiration, knowledge, and energy to live a healthy and empowered life? If we balance and harmonize our mind, exercise our body, live according to the laws of nature, and connect to spirit, can we find a way to heal, become our authentic self, and live our purpose with love? I am your hostess, Amy Fournier, and welcome back to Awakening Aphrodite. Welcome back to Awakening Aphrodite with Amy Fournier. Hey, would you like to connect with me more than just once a week? You know the new episodes go live every Tuesday morning, right around 7 a.m. Eastern Standard Time. But you can also jump on my free weekly email list. Yes, I have a newsletter list that goes out to my peeps where I share stuff going on in my life, stuff I think will help you and be of interest and value to you. Some of my favorite products I've come across, maybe an inspiring book, person, article, whatever, some new development or announcement. And you can jump on that list for free. And all you have to do is contact amyfournier.com, my website. That's my name, A-M-Y, F as in Fox, O-U-R-N-I-E-R.com. And just sign up there. And guess what? You'll even get a free mini ebook with 3 of my top tips for making fitness and health and mindset a lifestyle. So you get those free little mini ebook when you sign up. And we get to stay connected more than just on the show. So I'd love to have you join us over there. So today's show, my guest is Aleks Rybchinskiy. Aleks is a master Chek practitioner and holistic therapist with over 12 years in the field of holistic health. He's actually one of the youngest professionals to reach level 4 training, which is the top in the Chek totem pole. And he's also become part of a very elite group of less than 1,000 practitioners worldwide in that regard. He's a seasoned record breaker, having started his life on this earth by defeating the greatest odds, a kind of momentum that has remained a natural part of his path. And don't worry, we explained that in the episode. Aleks combines his unique and incredibly vast knowledge in biomechanics, physiology, anatomy, holistic nutrition, physics, and even ancient shamanic practices, as well as Jungian psychology for an advanced form of physical programming and clinical therapy that truly is rarely experienced under one umbrella with one professional. You are certainly in good hands with Aleks. So this episode is so fun. I know Aleks personally. He is just a sweetheart. You know, I got to tell you, just so many people that gravitate to the Chek Institute system of holistic health and wellness are just such solid individuals with truly kind hearts, always super smart, very grounded people, enjoyable people. I've made so many friends professionally as well as personally that I just love. Aleks is one of them. You can even check out my episode with his wife, Sara, which was, we actually had 2 episodes, 64 and 65, where you can get Sara's intake on many things in there, the other half of the relationship equation, because in this episode, we talk a lot about relationships. It's fascinating. I wish I had heard this episode when I was a lot younger, trust me. So we talk about an inside look at coaching with Paul Chek, the Mr. Paul Chek, because both Aleks and I have had the privilege of working personally with him and in a mentor apprenticeship setting. Aleks talks about chasing death and his experience with dying basically when he was 3 years old, and then he continued to kind of chase death throughout his life and being an adrenaline junkie. And we talk about the dangers of confusing a lack of chaos and conflict in life with basically being bored. And really fascinating, calling in and navigating a sacred, conscious, intimate relationship. This is such an important topic that so many people are interested in, whether you're in a relationship, you want to call it in, or you already have one and maybe you want to make it better, or maybe you're not sure if this is the one. Could there be more for you? So, tips on how Sara and Aleks did it as two very conscious, committed, loving, intelligent, growth-minded people that really want to live their dreams, how they navigate that really dynamic landscape of relationships. We also talk about plant medicine, and I share a little bit about my experience with plant medicine. And Aleks shares with us what he calls a safe way to do dumb things. So it's good to know, keep that in your back pocket. And his definition of surrender. And I like this because Aleks clears up a lot of misconceptions about what surrender really is. And we talk about how you can tell the difference between when your soul is telling you something and when your ego is telling you something. A very, very important distinction, I may add, that a lot of people confuse. And we talk about the archetypal masculine man versus the alpha bro. Like, what is a true man? I ask Aleks about masculine traits and tips for men who really want to live fully in their masculine, but also relate to not only the feminine in themselves, but the feminine in the women in their lives, and do so successfully. Aleks gives brilliant advice on how he navigates that terrain. And he gives advice to women and how to deal with the masculine man and how to navigate between the two. And lastly, Aleks gives us his advice for practicing scaring your dates away, is the way he puts it. If you're on Tinder or any of these dating apps, or again, if you're single, Aleks advises to, get really good at really showing them your best. Don't put on a mask. Practice scaring them away. And if they still stick around, then you might have something to work with. So I thought that was a really cool way to look at it. So enjoy this fascinating, intimate conversation with my pal, Aleks Rybchinskiy. And welcome back to Awakening Aphrodite with Amy Fournier. Today, my guest is Aleks Rybchinskiy. And Aleks, I'd like to welcome you to the show and welcome you back to the world. Because as I understand, you've already died and you've come back. So would you like to share with us what we mean by that?
When I was 3 years old, I flatlined in the hospital and I had laryngitis. My lymph nodes swelled up, and then the nurses at the hospital in Ukraine, I was born in Ukraine, by the way, in the hospital in Ukraine gave me sedatives and sleeping pills so that my mom can get some rest. So then I ended up suffocating my sleep, and then they found me blue, and then they had to rush me to the ER, resuscitate me, adrenaline me to the heart, and then my parents only found out, and then they wheeled me out with a big trach. So I had a tracheotomy and I talked like a little robot for a while. And I was 3 years old at the time. Right. So then I came in with laryngitis and I came out of the ER. And then when they came back, I had a tube in my throat, and they didn't tell them I died. It was my grandma that worked in the hospital. I had to do some digging to find out, because things are a lot different in Ukraine than they are here. The parents get sent home when the kid goes to the ER, or anyone. So you're pretty much, we'll call you back when we're done. They only found out because my grandma worked in the hospital and did some digging, because she was also a nurse at that hospital. And so that's how they found out all those things happened to me. So yeah, here I am.
So you mentioned that was a big epiphany for you now in your adult life. Like, how so?
People complain about the simplest stuff. They're like, oh, I hate waking up, and my day is it's so annoying. I have to go do this and do that. And I'm grateful to be alive. I'm grateful to breathe. Like, people ask me, what is the best part about getting up? I'm like, breathing, opening my eyes and seeing the world. I'm like, that's what's awesome.
And is that because you remember what happened? Like that you're only 3? I mean, do you have a memory of this whole thing?
I didn't until several years ago, where I was doing Tai Chi, and I was brave enough to go into that space and wonder, well, okay, I think I'm ready to see what that was like. And so while I'm doing Tai Chi, my throat's closing up and I'm suffocating, and I'm like, I could feel I'm throwing up, but and my body's still doing Tai Chi. And so, but my body, I'm physically can't breathe, and I'm choking, and I feel like I'm purging, and I feel like sludge coming out of my mouth and mucus, and so then I started seeing this vision of a light with these 6 little heads. They looked like extraterrestrial heads. They looked like grays, actually, but they were dark, like shadow-like figures. And then I was telling Sarah about my experience doing Tai Chi, and then she goes, "Oh, it was interesting. Your mom said there were 6 doctors in the room." And then,
Wow.
yeah, so it was like little things that she didn't think about to tell me, and the little detail in conversation, and so that was interesting. But I've helped when I was 13, like as an example, one of my older friends was suicidal, and helping them get through that, and then reflecting on my experiences with them being 13 years old, and then they're not suicidal anymore, they're loving life and enjoying themselves, and then later going through my own little dark nights of the soul at 16 and 17, 18, thinking about death, and then wondering, man, I remember still sitting on my stairs after absorbing a lot of this energy, not knowing what I'm absorbing. I'm only reflecting as an adult as I am now, but sitting on the stairs going, what is suicide like? What is death like? And then and then thinking all these processes through. I was probably 13 to 15 years old when this was happening, and I attempted a lot of death. Like I tried to do dumb things, not thinking that, oh, I'm going to do this to die, but trying to get closer to that feeling of death, because it was familiar and pleasant and uncertain, and felt like home, but I didn't want to be there. And then, so, I mean, driving my car 130 miles an hour and riding my bike off of, huge ramps, and falling, and, getting concussions, and going unconscious several times. And then one day it clicked that, if God wanted me dead, then I would be dead, and might as well make something of my life while I'm here. And when that time will come, it will be one of the most pleasant experiences, because death is almost, it is more pleasant than living. I'll tell you that. Death is a really pleasant experience. It's a euphoric experience, and a lot of people will chase that, instead of almost looking at it as a delayed gratification of, this is what you're going to look forward to when you're done working on this earth. And so every day I get up and I'm breathing. Whew. It's awesome.
That's fascinating. And adrenaline junkies and people who really push that limit, skydiving and all this crazy stuff and quote unquote risky behavior, I know a lot of them feel like it's because when they do, they feel the most alive. It's so ironic, right? We are on the edge of death, but what it is all your senses are completely heightened. It's like everything is on like alert big time, that edge. And that hence the adrenaline junkie, right? They get addicted to that extreme state of consciousness. And it's kind of like a drug, right? After a while, you get like sensitive to it, and then you need more and more and more. And it's like, how does that even compare to regular day life existence of the mundane, right?
It's more than kind of like a drug. It is a drug. I mean, they gave me adrenaline right to my heart to revive me when I was 3 years old, and
wow,
and that's what happens. I mean, you hit a certain level of adrenaline, and then your body adapts to that level, and then you don't feel alive anymore. So you go to the next level, the next level, and the next level, and then at some level of this unconscious drug addiction to your own drugs your body makes, you end up dying doing something that is over your limits of capacity. And then, I mean, there's a skier that was like amazing, and I remember hearing a story about how he would he did the most incredible things. Like he would dive, he would ski off of cliffs and then do like backflips. And they were small cliffs, like, well, small, like 80 feet, 100 feet cliffs, but enough that he would do all of these aerial stunts and then pull his parachute at the very last moment. And then one day his parachute didn't open and he died. And it was caught on video. So things like that happen because you like, oh, I have so much more time. I have so much more time to pull this ripcord. And then you start timing these, and then the one day it doesn't work out is the day you meet your maker.
Wow. That's
and then
so
these guys a lot of these junkies end up killing themselves because they can't keep up with how much adrenaline is going through their system, and then life becomes flat.
And then for the everyday average person, this adrenaline state, this like chronic low level adrenaline state is the constant state of stress that so many of us are living in these days. And we're not even aware that we've got this low grade stress hormone influx constantly flowing through our body. And then we wonder about all the negative ramifications of living like that when it's not supposed to be that way.
Yeah, I hope I don't butcher this quote. I heard something recently that says, we confuse peace with boredom. And I'm butchering it, but it's basically we confuse peace with boredom, and then we associate chaos to living, and then we live in a state of chaos. And then whenever we get bored or we have this internal peace or lack of struggle, we dismiss it as, I'm not doing enough and I need to get back into chaos. And it is true when we grow up in a life of chaos, when we have peace, it's agitating, it's annoying, it's
unfamiliar. It's unfamiliar too.
Yeah, even in good relationships, when you're in a relationship and then you're creating all this chaos in the relationship because that is your association to love, because that's how their parents stuck together. And meanwhile, you're creating chaos, wondering why no one's sticking around. And whenever things get flat or comfortable, or, there is harmonious love in the relationship, that doesn't associate as love in someone's mind. And so they create problems and then wonder why it doesn't work out.
It's so true on every regard. Like that becomes the normal programming and feeling energetically that you are growing up with, and you will unconsciously seek that out and replicate that in future adult relationships, and you don't even know you are, because like you said, that becomes normal, like that this is. And so there's a message to all the parents who stay together for the kids, and not role modeling a happy, balanced, conscious relationship.
Yeah, I mean, if you're going to stay together for the kids, actually change and do it for the kids. And then I think the funny little paradox is, the more you work on yourself in the relationship, the happier you end up being. And then your kids end up witnessing it. And then you guys end up staying together and being happy because you worked on yourselves.
I love it. That's a good way to look at it. Let's talk about relationship struggles, my friend. Because you and I know each other now for several years. As I mentioned in the bio at the beginning of the show, you are a highly, highly trained Chek professional and one of the very elites in the world. And if I understand correctly, you're actually one of the youngest Chek professionals that was trained, that has been trained that high. And you're married to another one, a brilliant, beautiful, fascinating, loving, amazing woman that I really am looking forward to getting to know better, your wife, Sara. And if people want to check out her and some of her brilliance, they can check out episodes 64 and 65 with Sara, I just love her so much. She's like a soul sister of mine. And by the way, before we get into the relationship topic, did you want to share anything in the regard of your work with the Chek Institute and your training?
I don't know. I think about this often, and every now and then it'll stop me dead in my tracks, and I wonder, where would I be if I didn't meet Paul? And then I get glimpses of it. I get glimpses of it on the internet, and I'm like, I see doppelgangers that look like me on the internet doing the things that I'm like, oh, I could totally see myself. That's what I'd probably be doing, being some, TikTok influencer, making silly videos nonstop, and without the training behind it and being able to help people. I'd be, saying random stuff, whatever gets likes, and I could see myself doing all these other weird, non-purposeful things if I didn't meet Paul. And Paul's been the only person, and I grill every single educator, and what ends up happening is their knowledge runs dry, and then my questions outpace the amount of information they have. And Paul's been the only person that I haven't outpaced. And then every time I have a question, he has a really deep answer that sometimes takes over an hour to, I remember one of our sessions together. I mean, Sarah and I coached him for over 2 years, and I had this epiphany around, the number 0. And then after our session, he goes, "Okay, you ready?" And then I almost pissed myself because I had to go to the bathroom, but I didn't want to stop him because he was on a roll. And then I think it was almost 50 minutes later, I almost pissed myself. And I'm like, I'm glad I stuck around, because I was way far off. Not far off, but I'm glad I was using my brain. And then had someone to then give me another perspective of their own deep insight versus getting like a Snapple top answer, So the amount of information that was given, I can't say freely because you pay for it, but the amount of information that was given and harvested and then presented for you to figure out and then apply is unsurpassable anywhere else that I've seen. The amount of completeness. Maybe other places will go deeper on a certain subject. And even in the Chek Institute, they say, hey, go to this person and they're the master of infant development. Yet, when you go other places, they don't complete the piece for you. They tell you how amazing this is and how this is the end all be all. But then when you go through the Chek system, you realize it's only a small facet.
Yeah, it's segmented, kind of like conventional medical care. Like you go to a specialist for an endocrinologist for your thyroid problem, but you're not going to talk about your heart, or you're not going to talk about your blood sugar. You go to someone else for that. Yeah, it's more comprehensive for sure.
Yeah, and so I call Paul's system like the heart, like the guts, like of your computer, like your operating software. And then you have all these little plugins and apps. Mm-hmm. And then when you type in the wrong code, it crashes the whole system. And you go, I need to delete that app. That app isn't working anymore with this operating software. So the operating software, as you keep upgrading it, is going to have all these plugins and apps and things like that. And then you can see whether it crashes the system or not, because everything in isolation looks good. Like you can isolate why, and I'm sure, Kellogg's and all these other lobbyists have paid for studies that tell you why sugar is actually not that bad for you, and it's healthy for you, and it's formed. So yes, sugar on a fundamental level is good for you because that's what runs your energetic system on a simple biological level. But on a grand scheme of things, it's highly detrimental, and especially the quality that you put in your body. So yeah, I really enjoy
and the quantity.
And quantity, yeah. And the timing and all those things.
Yeah. Which you learn in the Chek system. Yeah, and I'll just put a cap on that discussion. That two things. First of all, the other thing about Paul is he's not just a genius intellectually, but he's got the gnosis with a G to back it up. And I think that authenticity when he teaches you things and, like you said, answers your questions is because pretty much he's been there. Not only has he probably did a deep dive studying the topic, but he really has a resonance because of his authentically living what he's going to be talking about, or he'll say, I don't know, or whatever. He has a lot of integrity as well. And I'll also add that you are a lot like him.
Well, thank you. That is a very high compliment.
Yes.
You're a lot like him. That's probably why you guys resonate, and even to your evil Knievel ways. I didn't know that part about you, so that's another way you resonate with him too.
It's probably why he's so hard on me.
Yeah, he's really hard on me too.
I believe I'm actually the longest running female client he's ever had. I've known him since the late 80s. He was a big start in my career. he's hard on me too, and he'll say that sometimes. And he doesn't have a lot of female clients, and sometimes like he's like, I'm an 82nd Airborne paratrooper, and and I'll start in with that whole thing, and be like, bat, 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 I'll be like, what? And I'll be like crying, like, wait, you don't talk to Zoe like that, Paul. I used to tease him. I'd be like, when Zoe was first born, his little daughter. For those who don't know, I used to say, I'm training for you to deal with Zoe because she was his first daughter. And I'm like, I'm training for you to know how to be a better daddy. She's a girl. Not that I'm sexist, but I mean, sometimes, he's pretty hardcore, as you know.
Oh, yeah. No, I don't know if it's sexist, observationally. Like, yeah.
Exactly.
And he softened up a lot.
Yes. Yes. And you know who's helping him a lot? Angie.
Oh, yeah.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. She's because she'll, they go.
Yeah, he keeps him on the fire.
Yeah, she can hold her own with him, that's for sure. And he likes that about someone. He's actually has said that to me several times. But
that's why Sarah has kept my attention this whole time. She can go toe to toe with my soul, my intellect, my ego, my shadow, and provide feedback and information that is outside of the realm of manipulating me and misguiding me. And so everything that she wants and says is for me to get better. And that is, I haven't experienced that with other people and in close relationship. And so, and I know that was one of my biggest things is I want someone to guide me, and not necessarily like a coach, but I mean, be with me and go toe to toe with me, and then be able to intellectually keep up, because I can definitely put a lot of people under in terms of, and drown people with my intellect and my knowledge, and she's way above me, and she'll go right there with me.
She's brilliant, absolutely brilliant. Probably one of the smartest people I've ever met. She's just brilliant and with a beautiful heart. And so what you're describing is the current term is like a conscious relationship, which is super inspiring, Aleks. And can you share with us, for those people that aren't in one, because to your point, they are extremely rare. But I know for me right now, I am unattached, and I really am resonating with manifesting just a real equal in every regard, which is what I hear that you're saying. And I'll add, I like a man's man too. I like being the girl, that's for sure. But someone who can hold their own, because every human being is the dichotomy of the two, right? And I can be super strong and in my masculine when I need to be, but when it comes to relationship, I definitely like to be the feminine energy. So would you like to share with us just your thoughts on how you manifested a conscious relationship and how you maintain it and anything like that?
Well, every relationship before I met Sarah was teaching me the things that I don't want and the things I put up with. And then, I made a list of all of the things that I wanted and I didn't want, and even my non-negotiables and even negotiables. Like, for example, one of them was, you know what? I don't mind if she has kids. If she's the right person, I don't mind if she has kids. And then so I painted this person in my mind and in my heart, and it became obvious when that person steps in front of you. Like, if you're in a room and you're looking for your phone, the idea of a phone goes into your mind. And when you're not going to pick up a beard brush because you're not looking for a beard brush, that becomes filtered out. And, a lot of men do this as well, where they'll go, oh, you're be like, it's in the drawer. Your thing is in the drawer, and I'll go look for it. I'm like, it's not on top of the drawer. It's not anywhere in here. And then because I have an idea of what it looks like, I miss it. And so when you have a clear picture of what you're looking for, then when you're scanning, your heart scanning, your mind scanning, and goes, are you ready for this? Have you not only put this person in your mind, but are you able to keep this person in your life once they come? It's one thing to, have the perfect partner that's willing to do all these things, but are you being the partner that the other person is going to be willing to put up with and then grow with Because it's one thing to attract, let's say, someone that goes, I want to win the lottery, and they win the lottery, but then they don't have the financial skills to manage all that money and potentially the fame and their family, and then all these expectations around that. And then they blow it all. And then they're like, oh, that was a fun time. And then they don't get that back the rest of their lives. I can't remember what the statistic was on the lottery people blow. It was like over 90-something% of people blow the lottery in like a month or something like that.
Mm-hmm.
Wild to think about. So painting this picture of all your past relationships, what worked, what didn't work, what are the negotiables, what are the non-negotiables, and then let it go. And then the moment you've let it go, Spirit brings unto you. And then keep doing the things that you are desiring to do. Like I kept going to Chek courses, and I met Sarah in HLC3 in Paul Chek's course. And it was the only time that Paul had an HLC3 on a retreat site. So everyone bought a room on this retreat site. We were all around each other for 8 or so days. So there was no escaping each other. And I remember when I first met Sarah, she was all bubbly coming over to me. Hey, I'm Sarah. And I'm, if people haven't heard the podcast with Paul and I and Sarah, it was, I'm like, yeah, I know who you are because we've been friends on Facebook for a year. And while she's talking to me about how
you already were friends.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, we were already friends on Facebook. And as she's talking to me, I'm looking for her on Facebook, and I go, see, we're friends. I'm like, I'm not even listening to what she's saying. And I'm like, put it in her face. And I go, see, we've been friends for over a year on Facebook. And she goes, okay, that's really weird. I'm out of here. And then so little things throughout the course made it obvious, because there's been things in my life that, like finding the Chek Institute, starting my own business, when it was time to turn my life around, so many things, I resonate a feeling. And that feeling was, it reminded me, hey, I know you're stubborn, but do this anyway. And then you'll figure out why later. And then, so that feeling hit me. And then I didn't stop. I mean, even in like two years into it, I remember Sarah looked at me and she said, why are you with me? Or like a year in. And I go, you know what? I don't know, but I'm willing to find out, which is not a great answer that you want to hear from your partner as you're asking them why you are wanting to be with that person, or when you're asking them, why are you with me? To get that answer is not pleasant, but it also was the most honest thing I can give her at the time. And then I was willing to wait and see how this would unfold. And almost 7 years after we met, we got married a full chakra cycle later. And then Paul married us on our property. And I'm trying to remember why this started, but it was I built that in my mind and I let it go, and I kept doing the things that I knew I needed to go do to get to be my best self and to be more successful in my career and to support a family and to get my name out there and do all these things. And then she showed up. She met me right at the course, and she wasn't supposed to be there. She was supposed to take IMS 1, but she chose, something in her told her to take HLC 3, and there we are. So that's what I would say.
So then when did you know she was your life partner, though? Because you were already friends on Facebook. It sounded like she didn't really click with you at the beginning for her.
In HLC 3, there was a time, I'm very huggy and, very, I love long hugs. And so Sarah, for people that don't know her, she used to be called a manslayer. And
I didn't know that.
Oh yeah, she would cut through men, or boys. Let's say boys, because men don't receive it that way. But she would cut through these psyches and push people away left and right, and people were afraid of her. And so she wasn't very touchy-feely.
Her intellect. You don't want to mess with Sarah.
No, she will ruin you if you get on her bad side. And if it gets to that point where she's taking the energy to then talk to you, you'll be sifting through what she's saying for years. And so in HLC 3, I ended up hugging her, and that hug turned into like an 8-minute hug.
Wow. So it's reciprocated.
Yeah. And then so when we pull out of this hug, I shared with her some things that I saw. And I told her, I was like, you know, very nonchalantly, very casually, hey, this wolf came up and its teeth came up and it, you know, growled at me. And then it came back and I saw this half of a face come up. And it
This
looked
is
like
during the hug.
This is during the hug. I saw it and I told her after. And I didn't know any of this other stuff that I'm telling you, all this backstory about her, you know, being very, you know, cut and dry with men and very intimidating and very sharp. And I had no idea. I had no idea she doesn't like hugging. I had no idea she, you know.
Oh, I didn't either.
Yeah. and so I told her these things and her jaw is on the floor. And then so we walk over to her journal and she opens her journal and she goes, is this what you saw? And I go, yeah, that's it. She goes,
she
no one's
drew
ever...
it. Oh my God.
She goes, yeah, this is my spirit guide and no one's ever seen, I've never told anyone about this.
The
and
wolf.
I go, well, the wolf that turned, and she goes, the wolf and the spirit guide are the same guide, and they morph back and forth between the two forms. And so I go, oh, well, that's what I saw. Didn't think anything of it.
Oh my God. This takes my breath away.
Yeah. And after that moment, I could smell her. I knew everywhere she was. And so
you could smell her.
I could smell her. I knew where she was on the compound. I would do weird things.
That's so primal.
In retrospect, seem really weird. But now it doesn't, because I mean we're still together, and you know.
Yeah. Plus, you get what was happening.
Yeah, but I mean, I would stand and I go, oh, she's about to turn the corner, and I'd look up, and then she'd walk around the corner, or I'd walk by the bathroom, and then here's the weird part. I'd stop and I'd wait, and I'm like, she's about to come out of the bathroom, and then she was in the bath, and she'd come out, and I go, oh, I knew you were in there, not thinking, you know, what the in full scope of what I'm saying, like, hey, woman I met, you know, 3 days ago, and I'm telling you I knew you were in the bathroom. Like, I didn't think of these things, but they felt true and to me. And I was like, I knew you were in there. And
no filter.
There's a connection. There's a, you know, yeah, exactly. So it was these moments where I'm thinking, I've never experienced anything like this with anyone else.
Wow.
And it was one of those certainties, those knowings that override the stubbornness inside of my my shadows, my ego, and it became a gnosis with a G, a knowing. That's why I told her, like a year or so in, I don't know why I'm with you, but I'm willing to stay and find out, because I'm supposed to be here. We're supposed to be here. And so I knew it in my bones, in my heart, in my soul. And every time that I would think of something different, it would always bring me back to center.
And what about when things got challenging or get challenging? You know, like having that feeling, because I've never had that in my heart, bones, and soul feeling of gnosis. I'm just curious, again, as an outsider from that experience so far. It's coming, I know it is. But how does that affect when you do have the challenges and just everyday life stuff?
It really helped knowing that Sara was committed to me and I was committed to her, and knowing each other when we took space that the other person wasn't going to leave. And then so I'm like, you're going to be there in 3 days. I need to go take care of this myself instead of pushing it on you. And so, well, you know, if you look at it on a psychological evaluation, it's probably not a healthy relationship, because we would leave each other alone. We would cross each other's paths sometime. And, you know, we would give each other as much space as we can give each other while co-parenting and raising an infant. And even to this day, sometimes it takes like 2 days, and I need to go ground, and she needs to go journal and write, process, because we triggered ourselves, you know. But the biggest thing was setting this but this bond that we're not going anywhere. So whatever time you need, take it, but I'm also not going to deal with your shit. So go deal with it, because I don't deserve to be treated like that. And I know we both recognize that this is a projection, a shadow, a trigger that is not about me. It's about you. So go take the time that you need to get centered, so when you come back, we can be harmonious again, instead of it continuously being like a enabling relationship where the other person is responsible for how the other person feels.
So I'm just curious as to how you got to the place to be able to say that, you know, you're in, this is it, regardless of the little, comings and goings of together and, separateness apart to process and all that. Because a lot of people say that, no, I'm in. Obviously marriage is supposed to be for life and all that. But a lot of times when it comes right down to it, they don't have the feeling in their gut that they really know this person is not going there. I can be my worst, whatever. This is truly unconditional. Like for them to know in their heart and soul, that person is not going to leave me. I could, shoot the president or whatever, and they're not going to, we're together. So how did you guys get to that point of really knowing in your gut, like they really mean it? Like we really are not going to leave each other.
Two things pop up. I want to say them both in case I lose them. But one is when you're a man, when you say what you mean and mean what you say. And you spend time showing that. And the other one is Sarah would totally leave me if I didn't live up to my potential. So that's the thing. Like if Sarah goes off the rails, like we're not going to be apart. But the point is we both continuously strive to grow and meet each other. Mm-hmm. And sometimes it's like a slingshot where she'll go ahead of me and then I'll give that space and then and then all that tension will come and then I'll slingshot me and then it'll be like the slingshot effect. Nice. And then when we meet in the middle, it's harmony and then it goes apart and then it continuously, but then like a stair climber, as you're climbing this ladder, you look down and you go, holy shit, we've moved really far. But going back to that first part is I meant what I said and I said what I meant. And then now I spend the rest of my time proving that. And so the more I prove it by actions, words, deeds, commitments, following through, the more she learns to trust it. And then the more she learns to trust it, the more she learns to trust me, the more the relationship gets better and the more we continue to grow. But those are very mutual things in our relationship, in our core values of we both need to continue to grow. And if we start to stagnate and thrive for this level of comfort that, hey, we've outgrown 99% of the relationships out there, we're good, then both of us are going to get agitated because there's so much more to learn. And we're both so hungry for growth and learning, not impatient, not rushing it, but hungry when it's coming, because sometimes you fast, right? You're hungry and you fast to get, and then when you're ready, you get food or you get nourishment. So I don't want people to confuse, like we're always gorging on, spiritual development, because there's times where Sarah was told by Paul she can't consume any intellectual information for 3 months, and I'm sure she said that on her on your podcast. So it doesn't always mean gorging ourselves, but at the same time, being present and being here and being mindful and show up in the little things, in your little commitments. And I'm still working on that. And we're not free of irritation of each other, and we're not free of judgments of each other or expectations of each other. But when those come up, we're both in the space that we are aware that these things are going to continue to happen, but go deal with it. Like we need to deal with it ourselves, or else it's going to eat at the other person. Like if one day Sarah decided to, she's like, I'm done believing in, whatever, all this holistic mumbo jumbo, and start taking, start eating gluten and all this processed food again, and not drinking water and getting really sick. And I'm like, I'd immediately go, what's going on? Like, what shifted? And then I would inquire. And I don't know what would happen if she turned into a very unhealthy, sick person. And I'd be very concerned for her and our kids and what they're witnessing. And I don't know if it would work. But the fact that whatever commitments that we make and continue to update, because the commitments that we made when we first started aren't even commitments anymore. We're like, oh, we got these. We don't even have to talk about this anymore. But then we make new commitments and new commitments and new commitments and refine our relationship, because that's what marriage is, not what the church says it is. It's not what your parents says it is. It's what you and the other person have mutually agreed upon. And if it's working and both of you feel loved in that space, then that's all that really matters. So when we create agreements between ourselves and our relationship as to what's important, and we uphold those. And then as we outgrow, we refine and refine again. So that's how that trust and that level of commitment builds, is that you say what you mean and mean what you say. And if you're a child or a boy and you're not willing to keep up with those commitments long term, day in and day out, then it's going to keep escaping. These relationships are going to keep escaping, and it's going to be a pattern. And most people don't recognize that the word karma in Sanskrit means wheel. And so if you keep repeating that pattern in a circular fashion and then not acknowledge that and not address that, then you're going to get more of the same. And Albert Einstein's definition of insanity is doing the same thing over and over and expecting a different result. So sometimes we got to switch it up, even if it's uncomfortable, even if it hurts, or even if it's, hard to see. And, when I started coaching with Paul, he goes, what do you want to work on? The first thing I told him was, I want you to show me what I can't see, because I can't work on what I can't see, and I want to work on it. So don't tell me things I already know. Tell me things that I completely am oblivious to. So that way, shining light on something that's in the dark, because that's helpful to me. Open my awareness to the things that I'm not seeing.
I think that is the most brilliant answer to that question I've ever heard. And, it's funny, Paul asks me that all the time too. And, because, again, I've been working with him a long time. And, as like your relationship with Sarah, things just keep updating, right? You keep upgrading your system, to your computer analogy. And, often one of the last times I answered him, I just kind of looked at him and I was like, well, I know you're not God. So it's probably not possible for you to do what would be ideal. But I basically gave the same answer as you, is that, I really want to, I have to take a deep breath when I say this, I really want to remove the blocking factors that I have subconsciously to my dreams and to my potential and my entelechy and being all that Great Spirit made me to potentially be. And to my point of, I know you're not God, Paul. You can't, perform miracles. And at the end of the day, obviously, I'm the one who has to do the work. And it scared the bejesus out of me to say that, because I knew what that probably meant and that we were going to have to do, which is not fun for me ever to do medicine journeys or anything. They're always very uncomfortable for me. And that tells you something right there, right? But, what I'm hearing you say is you went right into your shadow, because for the audience, everybody knows the saying, that our unconscious brain is 95% of our being, and that we're only conscious of a teeny tiny amount. It's like the iceberg, the tip of the iceberg, and the whole iceberg is below the water. That's what you're not aware of, is really running the show. So isn't that a smart answer to say, I want to be aware of what I'm not aware of, that's actually determining where I'm going in my life? But when it comes right down to it, Aleks, that's not fun. That is scary stuff, to be that brave to actually do it. And it sounds like you actually did it.
I think my childhood set me up for that. Jumping off of roofs on my bike and landing on the floor and driving fast. You don't know until you try it. And sometimes it's that adrenaline junkie that pushes himself off the deep end. And let's go to that place and let's see what it's like. And then let's take something back from that experience. And I didn't take a lot of things back my early days until I met Paul. And then when I met Paul, it became a lot more ritualistic as to the journey isn't as important as the reflections that you get after the journey, or during and then after, and then the implementation of those things. And the thing that scared the shit out of me the most, because I'm an only child, my parents pretty much took care of me. And if you have a 3-year-old that died, I can imagine you're gonna smother them and not let them do certain things, which made me want to do things more, because I'm like my dad, which is very stubborn. And And so you tell him no, and he's going to want to do it anyway. And then he's wondering why I'm doing the thing, acting like him in a different sense, in a different light. But what scared me the most was the responsibility that came with that power. And, you know, I even make jokes about it, you know, that I'm one of the most known, least famous people in this space. And then it wasn't until recently that I stopped wrapping the language around, because I became aware of what I was doing to myself. I'm going, wow, I'm making myself small for no reason, as a joke. I'm making a joke out of myself.
You're spell casting too.
Yeah. And so I eliminated that joke. I'm done with it. And so, but that was what previously scared the shit out of me, is what happens when people find out what I can do for people? And then how many people are going to be sitting at the door, knocking at the door, taking time away from my family, and, you know, not respecting my boundaries and asking me for certain things. And that thought of that responsibility of what comes with the amount of information and ability to apply that information that's in my mind scared the shit out of me. So, but at this point, I'm done with it. I'm ready. Yeah.
And the term is sabotage your success. People are afraid to not be successful, but they're also afraid to be successful for the reason that you're saying, you know, because what comes with it is responsibility and attention and, you know, lack of privacy and, you know, all that energy. And I mean, everything is a loaded issue, you know, like they say in Chinese medicine, everything has a front and a back, you know, so you have to be willing to take the whole package, you know, so.
Yeah.
And it's the same thing with relationships. You know, we're afraid of the responsibility of what we want, and then wondering, ooh, what happens when I get what I want? I'm going to have to level up constantly with this person. And this is a commitment I'm making. And it's not a shallow commitment. This is a commitment of my soul, of my heart, of my psyche, of my mind, my trust, my whole life experience. I'm giving this to one person. And this is what I'm going to be doing day in and day out. And that responsibility, you know, fame set aside, because I've worked with celebrities and that stuff scares me. They can't go out in public and all this stuff.
Mm-hmm.
But set that aside, you're in that space with your own paparazzi, your own manager, your own partner, your own, you know, your mother or father of your children. If you have children, and you're famous to them. You know, they don't care who you are. You're the dad. You're famous to them. Mm-hmm. And the responsibility that comes with it is immense, is extraordinary, and it's fulfilling. And that's why I say, even though it's hard work, I eventually have death to look forward to, because it's such a pleasant feeling. But I'm not ignoring the amount of responsibility that I have and potential I have to live out my purpose here.
Well, you know, this is amazing, Aleks, because what I'm hearing you say is you're basically not afraid to die. And first of all, that's extremely rare, because 99% of humanity is afraid of dying. I mean, everything that we're doing, I mean, look at anti-aging and whatever, just everything, right? Or seatbelts or whatever, pick it. I mean, so I've heard it said that when you take away someone's fear of death, you really lose complete control of that person. If they're not afraid to die, I mean, look at warriors, right? And armies. When someone is willing to die for something, you can't scare them, and you certainly can't propagandize them.
That's for sure.
And don't get me wrong, like I get on a ladder and it's terrifying, because I'm like, well, I'm still here, you know, I don't want to break my legs and then have to not work and then not exercise and not move and not play with my kids. And so, you know, that's the ego will still go, oh, you're afraid to die. You know, you don't need to die. And when you go into journeys, you don't need to die. But ultimately, yeah, because I know what's on the other side. And when you let go of the hardest part would be letting go of the memories, because this is what people say, like, people don't get, when you lose your ego, you forget who's asking the question and wanting to lose the ego. So when you're asking, you know, medicine, I want to lose my ego. When you do that, the person asking that is gone. All the memories, all the desire to know, all the, you know, pursuits of enlightenment, all the struggles, relationships, kids, memories, dogs, parents, all those things are gone, because you are one with all that is, and nothing at the same time. And so when you come back into your body and you remember that you had all that gone and all your memories were wiped out, is jarring to a lot of people.
Yeah.
And so whenever I hear certain people talk about, you know, oh, I've lost my ego, I'm like,
No.
tell me what that's like. And they realize, you know, they were, you know, blissfully happy on drugs and, or, you know, sacred medicine, as you know, you want to call it.
It's scary as shit.
I mean,
It's like,
a lot of people definitely can't handle it. I mean, I would say most. And to that point, make sure you're in a really good container with really skilled shaman that know what they're doing, and setting is critical. When these people running down to Costa Rica and doing these group things, I've been in certain situations where, I mean, because I'm really receptive to energy, and I'm spoiled because I work privately with Paul. You know, I'm not in some group setting with someone having a complete narcotic breakdown over there and screaming or, you know, reliving stuff or whatever. And I'm like, because you're so open in that state, like it can be hard to have boundaries of any regard, psychically, emotionally, spiritually, physically, blah, blah, blah.
Yeah, and especially if a person's not trained to discern themselves from other people. I mean, most people haven't even heard the voice of their own soul. And so if you don't know when your highest form of intelligence that looks after you is talking to you right in your ear, and you think it's something else, and then you leave with some idea because you were on this sacred space that was infiltrated or, you know, adulterated in some way, and then you leave with this new information and it sets your life into chaos, which is also helpful to people because then they learn, hopefully. But you could save so much chaos in your life by doing things the proper way and not rushing through this. But also, I'm saying this as a person who did rush through things a lot and jumped off of things. And how do you know if it's going to hurt if you don't jump off of it, you know? But so I'm coming from real life experience going, okay, there's a good element to both, and there's a safe way to do dumb things. You know what I mean?
Yeah. I will quote you on that, Aleks.
Yeah, there's a safe way to take 10 grams of mushrooms. There's a safe way to, you know, blow your psyche apart. There's a safe way to commit very dangerous acts that can compromise your safety for a certain thrill, you know. And then there's careless ways, which you don't hear about those very much because they get shoved under the rug.
Advice for people that want to connect with their soul, because to that point, it's not common at all, Aleks. It's not, as you know. I know you know well, working so long in the field. So just any advice on people to start, because you hit the nail on the head. That's what it all comes down to, and that's what we're all here for, is to remember who we are, and that's our compass.
I think, and I feel one of the biggest things that people need to do, and I need to clarify this word because a lot of people have never experienced this word, is surrender. And surrender to not knowing, surrender to whatever comes up, surrender to the expectations of what it may or may not be, surrender to your idea of what it can or can't be, and allow it to be. And it takes a long time to clear the noise out of your head, because I mean, I hear noise in my head constantly, and the trees will talk, the birds will talk, and sometimes I'm in an environment, it's hard to hear anything because there's so much noise going on, and it's hard to filter out what's talking to me. And get in a clear room and then let the noise putter out, and then get into a space where there's an absence of noise, an absence of chatter, and then ask, Great Spirit, can you connect me to my soul? Soul, can you make your presence known? In what way? You know, and some people feel it differently. Some people feel tingles, some people some people hear it, some people feel energetic shifts going up and down, and it's consistent. But if you're guiding that, then you're going to be manipulating that. So it's, even your ego can infiltrate your soul and mimic your soul. And that's why you have to let go of that. And then you'll know, because, for example, and what I've been hearing from a lot of clients recently is the fact that they've been manipulated by their soul, which is not true. They've been really shown some lessons to discernment, because they'll tell me, my soul told me to do this. And I go, that doesn't sound like the soul will tell you to do that. And they go, but my soul did. And I go, try it. If it produces a favorable outcome, then it may be your soul. And if it's not a favorable outcome and you haven't learned anything, then guess what? Your soul could be teaching you, or your ego could be infiltrating, and then you'll have to really get even more quiet before you could hear the whisper of the universe. And then, you know, as like we were talking about the daredevil thing, it's one thing to want to talk to your soul. It's another thing to really hear your soul and then have to choose every action you make after your soul talks with you. Because I posted something today. It's like, if you play games of spirit, you're going to win prizes, and they're not fun half the time. And so there's another level of responsibility and commitment. So if you can't commit to a partner, you know, how are you going to commit to knowing what your soul is saying? And if you're, you know, an easy example is if you're in this good vibe mentality going, I'm so open and I hear my soul, but every challenge that comes in your life you ignore, then you're playing a very dangerous game with your soul. And then eventually your soul stops talking to you because you're overridden by your ego. So we have to surrender to that. I don't know shit. Tell me, like, guide me, because I clearly have no idea. So I'm done. And then you'll hear it. People need a break. They need to sometimes break into that.
Oh, yes. And I'll also add, Aleks, too, that sometimes on the other spectrum, people don't want to hear what their soul's saying because they know it means their life's going to have to change. And that can be scary. You're in the wrong job. You're in the wrong relationship. You know, whatever. You're doing something that's hurting you. So a lot of times people, we just, you know, I like to call it creative distraction. We overwork, we overeat, we overshop, we overdrink, whatever, just to not feel it, just to numb down the voice of the soul that's just trying to get your attention. And as you've referred to it, and Paul, the pain teacher, you want to address that at all for people?
Yeah. I mean, if anyone has pain, I'm laughing because I heard someone's iteration on pain that I won't bore you guys with, but the pain teacher, it only shows up when you're doing something that you shouldn't be doing. It's very simple. You know, if you put your fork in an outlet and it shocks you, you shouldn't be doing that. You know, but you got to experience it. Good for you. You know, but then you should have enough life experience before, you know, if you see a dog that's, you know, foaming at the mouth and on a chain and it bites you every single time, how many times before you stop addressing that dog and try to address it differently? Maybe with food, maybe. So, but it's the same reaction. And I don't know how many times I'll hear, you know, and this is how consumed people are in their ego. They'll confess to me how broken their bodies are, and I go, oh, you know, I can fix that. I can take care of that. And then they will literally tell me, oh no, I don't have any pain. I'm feeling great.
What?
Right in front of my face.
They changed the story.
Right in front of my face.
So they want the pain then.
They're not ready to let go of the pain yet.
Got it.
Because they're not enough of an addict for it to ruin their life yet.
Yeah, and they're not willing to, kind of what I'm saying is, do the things necessary that they know they need to do to get work to where they say they want to get to. But it's going to create pain, because growth is pain, right? But it's temporary. And what I always say is, you're in pain anyway. Just pick your pain, one that's going to be productive or one that's just going to be unproductive.
And one leaves you with more pain, like if you do too many hang cleans and then you blow a knee out, or you don't tap in jiu-jitsu because your ego, and you hurt yourself riding your bike too fast, or doing something let's say not extreme but over repetitive. You hurt yourself in the gym and now you're in pain. You've carried pain, a learning lesson, but you're still in pain because remember what we said earlier, people confuse boredom with peace. Yes. And so they're at least I'm still in pain. But if they have to acknowledge this pain, which leads to quiet and peace, that's unsettling to most people because it's not what they're familiar with, which means that there's no more push and pulls and distractions and painful relationship lessons and things like that. So they're not used to sitting in silence, and those people need to really break before they hear the whispers.
You know what? That just triggered something in me that I think, too, what's really sad, Aleks, is a lot of people kind of default to feeling these painful things and the painful habits that they keep recreating in their lives because they want to feel something. like they don't have other things to feel. And just back to kind of feeling alive, it's like, if I didn't have this, I would have nothing. I would just be like dead, like walking around, my body's walking around, but I'm really dead inside. I mean, that's kind of a sad thought. I mean, do you have any thoughts on that idea? Or what would you say to people like, oh, that's me? Like, I don't even know. Like, if I wasn't feeling this, I pretty much wouldn't feel anything.
Yeah. I think that's an absence of feeling is also a feeling. And at the same time, I reflect on like our parents or family members, or most of society doesn't have a Paul Chek in their corner. They don't have the training that we've had. They don't have the psychological, and even if they did go to be a psychological major or a psychologist, they don't have the movement, the diet, the quiet. They don't have those tools.
The comprehensive, yep.
Yeah. And so at some point, I can't blame people for being stuck in marketing and bad food. Because I mean, if that's all you had in front of your face telling you that was what's good for you,
it works.
And then it works, and it's the numbing. And then, but at some point, I mean, the people that end up in my office are the ones that say this all the time. I've tried everything. I've listened to everyone. I've been to every doctor. I've tried everything on Instagram. I've been to other coaches. You're my last hope. Hope you can help me. And people said, that you're going to be the person that can help me. And I'm like, if you're going to do the work, I'll help you. And then they value it. The amount of gratitude and effort that I get from clients, I don't get non-compliance, because they see me doing it. They come to my house, they see like supplements, and I'm sitting in my gym right now, and I'm out in nature, and I tell them about how Sarah and I, this is our dream. We drew this house. I'm not even kidding. A year before we moved here, we drew a house with a long driveway and like this weird shape, and it was almost identical. And we didn't go on vacation, and we didn't spend random money on stuff we didn't need. We bought coaching from Paul. I crashed my car and gave Paul the money from the insurance so I can get more coaching from him, and then got my stuff dialed in. So my priorities were in this place. And then they see that the product of choosing things, and then they get to reflect on that while they're here and go, wow, I do spend a lot of money chasing random things, and I'm still not happy either way. And they're like, you must have it all figured out. I go, no, but I'm more figured out than most people, because I'm actually applying the things. And then if they don't work, then I chuck them, because I don't need them to be scientifically proven on paper. If someone tells me, gives me an article that, this certain healthy thing is bad for me, but it gives me great results and it doesn't mess up the rest of my life, I go, well, I don't need any validation. I'm validation. This is a validation of what works or not. This is a validation of what works or not, and if I'm looking at them truly and purely through a lens and not ignoring, putting fate, like I'm not in a terrible relationship going, this is great, my house is on fire, this is fine. I'm looking at it from a realistic perspective of what is actually in front of me. So I think, once again, I think even feeling nothing is a feeling.
Yeah, that's really interesting take on it. And I'll just say that, what you're describing is an authentic person. And, a Native American wisdom, they call it that you're lined up, your feet, your soul, your mind, your body, your spirit are all standing in the same place. And that's called coherence. And that's called being authentic. And the best thing you can give someone, whether you're a parent, friend, teacher, whatever, human being, is a good example. And you can't argue with someone's energy, and people can feel bullshit, their bullshit meter, whether they want to admit it or not, they can feel it. And so that's a beautiful testimony to you. It's wonderful.
Thank you. And it's also kind of insulting when you try to lie to people thinking they can't figure it out.
Oh, yeah.
Like, how many times do people lie right to your face and you're like, interesting. Wow, they think I'm an idiot.
Yeah.
All right, I'll let them keep thinking I'm an idiot. That's fine. It's going to be more embarrassing later, but that's fine.
It's actually to your advantage if they think that if they kind of expect less of you, they think they can pull one over on you. And then, like, okay, little do you know. Yeah, that's cool. Hence the dumb blonde stereotype, right? And
Sarah's famous quote. She looks at me after I blow her mind on how I fixed her shoulder in like 3 minutes while we were at HLC3, and she goes, "Wow, you're a lot smarter than you look." And I go, "Do I look dumb?" I go, "I didn't know I looked dumb." She goes, "But you know what I mean." I call them Sarah compliments. She's like, "Well, you're chiseled and like and this and
you have long hair, you have a beard."
I'm like, keep going. This is making it better. Keep going.
It's beautiful. I love it.
Yeah.
I love your relationship with her. It's so freaking
cute. All right, Aleks, talk to us about masculinity and what would you like the modern male to know based on your vast education, vast experience, just where you're at in your life. What would you like men to know? And then what would you like women to know? And again, speaking as someone who's in a conscious relationship that works pretty well and has a lot of things lined up.
Since it's an archetypal expression, it will constantly evolve with you. And so there is no painting of what an archetypal man looks like. There is archetypal masculine man. I think if what people have in their mind is like an alpha bro, beard, muscles, lumberjack, axe, like does heroic things, like, but that's not necessarily what a masculine man will do. A masculine looks like keeping up with a commitment, saying what you're doing, showing up, taking care of yourself. I still think being a beast is very masculine. I enjoy being very, very strong and keeping up with strength and being acrobatic and all those things. But at the same time, I don't allow that to be the only expression of masculinity that I find to be true to me. And I think it permeates on so many subtle levels, like being able to stand in a fire while, in my case, Sarah
metaphorically.
While she unloads on me and tears my psyche apart and tells me the truth about what's happening, and it's hard to swallow, and and also then at the same time being able to handle that and not use basically my one form of self-defense, which is physicality. So being able to be in full control of my power without using that to then defend myself over something that I could be insecure about. That is a masculine trait. A following through with a commitment that you made is a masculine trait. I think, and I feel that showing up is a very masculine trait for men. Sticking, because it keeps moving, and it'll always keep moving, and it's a very destructive force. It'll break you down, and when you're standing in that fire, if you allow the fire of masculinity to burn everything to the ground, what's left is supposed to be there. And if you're willing to stand in that, assuming you're aligned with your purpose, your heart, your soul, and you allow it to break you down, like when I was taking my master level practitioner course, and I remember hearing the stories from other people in that course of them going, "Hey, are you okay, Aleks?" I mean, I'm like, "Yeah, I'm fine. Why? What's going on?" And they would tell me it was uncomfortable for us to watch Paul go in on you like that. I go, "But that's why I'm here. That's why I'm here. Because no one else can be that accurate and that loving and that to the point and save me years of struggling. Why would I pay thousands of dollars to be here if that's not what I was looking for?"
Mm-hmm.
And then, still it was if you saw what was happening, it was
Heavy.
hard for people. It was heavy.
Mm.
But that's the point. You burn away things that don't serve you anymore. And whatever you're asked for out of life at that moment. You don't have to carry all the things, but I also subscribe to enjoying being the warrior in the garden instead of the gardener in the war. So you're still preparing for all of these things. You're still upkeeping, preparing. And, you know, if I drop the ball on things, and trust me, when I do, Sarah reminds me of it, and the kids remind me of it. And I'm not always perfect, and I get it wrong a lot. And I, you know, get blindsided by things. I'm like, I didn't expect this to happen. What's happening? Let me piece my environment together. But it's being able to go back to that moment and be better each time, and be better each time, and be better each time. It's like, you know, when you cut a piece of wood and you grind it with a grinder, you don't get the finished product. Then you put oil on it. Then you put, you know, I'm not a carpenter, so I don't know what all the finishes are. Then the rubs and the finishes and the stains and all those things. And then it becomes this really polished piece of wood, or a crystal looks like kind of like a dusty piece of garbage until you,
a rock.
Until you cut it and polish it and refine it and buff it. And then you're like, wow, this thing is pretty. I want to put that right there. And that's what shows up in crystal shops, not the, you know, the cloudy junk you find in you know, junk you find in the earth. And what we're used to seeing, like almost the pornographic version of these crystals in the shops, where they're fully done up and made up and like, oh, look, we're clear and see-through. So, but it's showing up for each one of those moments and getting more consistent with each time you show up, as to not fail everyone in life. You know, that's why you're around, to hold everyone up and together and be there. And sometimes it's not holding them up, sometimes it's being there, sometimes it's holding them up, sometimes it's dropping what you really want to do and go helping them out and being in service to your family. And that's what the masculine does. And I've skipped all the things that are the obvious, you know, the displays of power and aggression, because people are oversaturated that market with having those talks. But it's a constant evolution of that energy, and it's God's thoughts in the form of the masculine trying to express itself. And, you know, if you look out into my yard, you have the feminine, and the feminine has different flowers. It's not one type of tree everywhere. There's so many different arrays of expressions of the feminine and the masculine in the yard. And if you look at fire ants, they're probably very masculine because they will eat you alive. And then you have very beautiful flowers and animals and nature, so vastly different, with still containing that masculine and feminine expression. So if you can reflect on how you need to show up in your life versus how some other person shows up in their life, that's what I have really paid attention to in my life. Because if I showed up like I was living at someone else's life, that may not create harmony here.
And how do you show up as the feminine in you while maintaining the masculine in you that's very strong? I'm
normally hide out in my feminine because it's less intimidating for people. And so I show up very loving, hugging, supportive, always giving the people the benefit of the doubt. I even, you know, I give everyone my trust, and I say, basically in my mind, it's don't lose it. And if you lose it, I'm going to take it back, because you're not ready to hold, you're not ready to hold this yet. And so this is a very precious thing that I'm handing over to you. And so the moment they drop it, I'll go pick it up again, and then I'll take note, and maybe I'll give it to them again at some point. Maybe I won't. But it doesn't mean I treat them any differently. But in terms of how I show up and the responsibility I hand over to some people in the form of trust, I don't do that anymore, for many reasons, very masculine reasons, for safety, protection, whoever. I mean, we had people steal our courses, and we've had people steal our information, and, you know, people try to steal clients, and so many things. So it's one of those things where, you know, we create boundaries around, which also could be very masculine and feminine, for your own safety, for your own protection. And people need to learn boundaries. So how I show up in the feminine and masculine, it's fun being in the feminine. And when I'm around other men, it's fun being the archetypal like Greek masculine, where you're wrestling and you're throwing each other, and you're lifting weights and you're screaming and
Grunting.
grunting and making fires and doing daredevil-y things, and mixing being like playful like a child with more responsibility of things that, hey, this can probably kill us if we do this wrong, or hurt ourselves. And so, but at the same time someone gets hurt, it's being able to shift, whether it's feelings, emotions, thoughts, and being able to provide the heartfelt reaction or the heartfelt response to what's happening to the situation. And depending on what the person needs, if the person's in their feminine, you respond with the masculine. If the person's masculine, I'll respond with the feminine.
Mm-hmm.
And sometimes on occasion you can over masculine someone that's being masculine, and then those two energies de-escalate a person. Like there's things like I've had where you can get hurt. There's animals around, and there's you're going out in nature, and you're in a dangerous situation, and someone's like telling you what to do, and you're like, enough, we're gonna get hurt, and then they kind of get it, so there's certain, it's so many different ways of expressing itself. But as long as you're true with your authentic expression, versus like you're not in that situation and you're like coloring and someone's humming, and you are so aggressive with them instead of taking the time to communicate with them, it's not necessary. So it's being able to witness what's needed, but because when you're in alignment, the responses come out authentically, versus from what your parents used to do, or what your family used to do, or what your siblings used to talk to you like, or how your coworkers treat you like, or how all your bad relationships that left you scarred treated you like, and respond with what is actually true for you, and then allow the people that are in your life to stick around or not. Because I like being alone.
Yeah,
I like being alone.
Well, that's healthy. I mean, that's good.
And I don't mind it. So the people that I've in my life are they're there because they want to be there, and they're there not because I've convinced them or manipulated them. I show up as me, and then people stick around. Mm-hmm. And the people that don't, I'm okay with, because they're not supposed to be there yet.
That's beautiful.
Yep, that's beautiful. There's nothing more important than feeling safe to be authentically who you are in all regards. And that's very, very inspiring.
So I don't know if I added the thing about women. What for women, are we talking about women? We're talking about women, not girls, right? We're not talking about we're talking about women.
Adults, yeah.
Adults.
Let's put it that way.
Yeah, it's a very destructive force in nature. So at times, as long as the boundaries that you've set for the relationship or the interaction are not crossed, I fully am in agreement that not everyone's going to walk around like a monk the rest of their lives. Yeah. And so allowing that expression to express itself in a way that's not traumatizing is really important, because I'm a pretty dangerous human being compared to the regular public. I'm very athletic. I know martial arts, and I'm very explosive. I hit things very hard. I pick up 300-pound stones. Like, I'm a very dangerous person to the average person, but I don't need to flex that. And so there's another level of responsibility of how you step into that space. And that's what women should be looking out for, is how not repressed, but how controlled consciously is that person to be able to hold that space of having all this power and not using it because you're irritated, annoyed, triggered, whatever.
Mm-hmm. I can't believe you're saying that, because it's exactly where my brain was going, is that, the saying, walk softly, but carry a big stick. It's like, what's the difference between the false bravado of masculinity, the big, puffed up marshmallow guy with the shirt 20 sizes too small for him, who really, it's because he really doesn't have the strong core within the inner strength to hold up. Because I'm thinking, how does a man have because I'm hearing strong internal, external is a lot of what your answer is, that you are that kind of man, but you can be soft on the outside because you have that strong internal core. And another analogy I like to think of, it's like if you have a stoplight and two cars pull up, and one's a Ferrari and one's a Yugo, and as soon as the light turns green, the Yugo floors it and takes off, and the Ferrari just goes, because the Ferrari knows it could freaking blow the Yugo off the road. It doesn't need to flex its muscles because it knows it's got the goods. So to your point that you're a very dangerous human being, as you said, I think that women, and this is just to the audience, Aleks, that we can develop the ability, or men for that matter, people can develop the ability to sense in the other person when they've got the goods to back it up or not. Like, how much of it is this false bravado, and how much of it is real, authentic, yeah, this person has got it. They don't need to flaunt it to have it,
Yeah, I mean, Sarah and I will have, there'll be moments that I get really heated. And there's moments where I can feel all this tension building up inside of me, and I go, I need to take a pause, and I'm going outside. And I'll leave. And then, but we can do that because we've set commitments that saying, hey, I'm going to tell you I'm going to leave, and I'm going to come back, and we'll either keep going with this, or we've had enough, and we both had enough space to realize that our reflections are not actually, we've kind of gone off the deep end, or yeah, we need to keep talking about it. But I need space to ground, to process, because I can't hear you right now.
To stay connected at the heart, as they say in nonviolent communicate. Yep, you stay connected. I can't stay connected at the heart with you right now.
And at the same time, yeah, acknowledge and, hey, I'm not my best self right now. You need to say, give me a moment. I know we're both heated, and we don't say these things. These are all unspoken words that we've spoken to each other many a times before. And I'm only telling you the thought process. That's, the awarenesses that come up. It's like, oh shit, this is not going well. And I am losing my composure, and I'm not going to call names. I'm not going to be violent, and these are not why I have the skills and tools that I have. These are for if I hear the door jingle in the middle of the night and one of us is dying today, and that's what those are for, not for petty arguments or miscommunications. And these are the things that, can really, get the masculine going, is this inability to have parts of him die that he's really liked, has really enjoyed being around. I like being stubborn. I like being, this way. And then now it's being challenged, and that stuff has to die because it's not helping. Like, stoicism is great for, maybe if you're a salesman, maybe if you're in a dangerous living situation, but it's not healthy in relationships to not express what's happening in you at every, at certain times. So it's important to be soft. You don't have to stay hard all the time. Like, what if we walk around with a boner all the time? Like, we don't do that. We stay soft most of the time. When the time is ready, we get hard and do the thing we need to do.
It's actually a really good analogy.
Oh my goodness.
Excellent. Oh, I'm going to quote you on that one, Aleks.
That'd be great.
So, yeah, that's it's just trying to think of for anybody in the audience, like any men that are listening, just to kind of put a cap on this, because it's just fascinating. And I know we're getting toward the end here, but just any tips for men, Aleks, on how you maybe are able to break down those and to grow like that, and to allow yourself to be soft when the programming and the tendency is to want to be like, no, I'm stubborn, and because I said so, and don't give me a hard time, or whatever. Like, just any tips to help men or even over masculinized women like go more into their softness? Like what were the conditions? Like, did you have to feel safe, for example, with Sara? Like you keep mentioning that you guys know you're committed, you're not going anywhere. You might leave the room for a while, but you'll be back. Like, were there situations that allow you to vacillate between the hard and the soft, the masculine and the feminine in you?
Well, I grew up with a fairly amount of violence that didn't feel right to me. And so, I mean, and then I became a bouncer at like 18 to 20 years old. And I've seen some person, get punched and then get knocked out and then have their brain, cerebral fluids oozing out of their skull. And
No way.
it's not worth it to me. And that situation was a guy in the line slaps some girl's butt. Her boyfriend turns around and socks him right in the face. And the guy gets cold and like a domino falls and bounces his head off the concrete. And I see this white, clear fluid coming out of his head. And I'm like,
whoa.
Like, what if the guy has brain damage? What if the guy, and I'm like, all these things. And I go, for what? I'm like, it better be worth, traumatizing someone over. I mean,
Wow.
a shove, a push, that's why I like jujitsu, because you can at least strangle someone unconscious without damaging all their faculties in their body. Well, I almost can't remember what the question was. Is what are some tips? Oh, pause and wait. Is it worth it? If you can assess that situations aren't actually compromising your physical safety, pretty much physical safety. Because I mean, if you can't handle people talking about you emotionally or bringing certain things up, assuming they're not manipulating, we're talking about women, they're not manipulating.
Mm-hmm.
If they are manipulative, then it is within your right to call that shit out or leave before it becomes a domestic abuse situation. And then we know how that turns out. And then, so if your physical safety isn't being compromised, then the rest is, well, what the person in front of me is saying is true? So it's like, oh, you're lazy, you're not doing much. Okay, what if that's true? Can I be doing more? Like, clearly this person isn't good at communicating, they're berating me. But what if what they're saying is somewhat true? How can I implement that into my life? And then ultimately you're using the feedback of other people to make you into a better man. And then once you have run that dry, meaning you have done all those things, and you could look someone in the eye and be like, I'm not lazy. I'm not, soft. I'm not irresponsible. I'm not aggressive. I'm not this. I go, interesting that you would not notice these things about me, and really call someone out and be like, and what about you? And so with Sara, I don't point my finger back at all until with things that I'm, either super irritated, and I can tell I'm triggered because I'll start pointing my finger back and I'm like, oh, you're playing a dangerous game. But let's say in previous relationships where I have outgrown people, that's when I say something. Other than that, I'm collecting feedback and like, okay, you think I'm an asshole? Am I an asshole? What are you saying? Maybe I can deliver this information differently. And that's true. I could do that. I could probably, deliver it. Or if you told someone, hey, I'm really, like, if you thought about it, and I'm making up an example. If you told someone, hey, I'm really noticing that you're sabotaging your life right now through these means, and I'd love to help and support you in any way, and someone's like, you're an asshole, then you can go reflect and go, wow, I was really trying to be really supportive of them. It's not about me.
Yeah.
Like to look at your delivery too. If the delivery wasn't, put them on the defensive or attacking them or making them feel like a loser.
Yeah.
Yeah, anything is a reflection. And if someone calls me an asshole for being honest with them, I'm okay with that sometimes. Because if I was coming from my heart and I was being hard on someone because they needed it, and no one's ever been honest with them, and no one's going to be honest with them, and where they surround themselves with, And if this means like 3 to 6 months of temporarily you being pissed off at me, or a year, but then ultimately coming to the conclusion that I was the only person that was honest with you, that's when my head hits the pillow, that's what matters. I can go to sleep knowing that I was honest with someone, and truthful and genuine and concerned. Because if I was not concerned, I would be, casually, throwing, suggestions around.
You wouldn't even say it. Yeah, you wouldn't even bother. Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So that's what I think men struggle with the most. And they're so insecure, and then they go to the gym and lift more weights. And then they, go buy a faster car, or they go spend money outside of their means, or they go get a different haircut or tan or clothes. And none of that matters.
To try to build the physical strength when they really need to build the spiritual, intellectual, emotional strength.
Yeah.
To
it's like
withstand it. Mm-hmm.
They're building their shell. They're building this they're building this ego archetype of an internet avatar of, I got this hair, I got this thing, got these muscles, got this thing. This is how, women love me now. And then, but yet I can't maintain a relationship. And then it's like, something's not working. And then, why am I struggling with the fact? And then all of a sudden you start seeing that these expensive glasses and hats and clothes and things start to crumble around them. And that's, if you could stand in that moment, that's masculine energy right there. Burn that shit to the ground and then rebuild it.
And I'll say that any woman worth her 2 cents will read right through that eventually, because like with Sarah, I mean, eventually you're going to be put to the fire, and can you withstand the heat? And a man that's just a shell of physical strength is not going to be able to stand up to the heat. And then so she's going to walk, because she needs that solid presence that can withstand the storm. And at the end of the day, like we said at the beginning of the show, we're looking for equals here. We're looking for equals, and that's what a conscious relationship is. Different, but equal.
Yeah, it's definitely different, and not with its, not everything is peace all the time. Not everything is a psychological dysfunction all the time. Not everything is abuse and trauma all the time. It's looking past all of these things. It's actually participating and then being able to stop those things. Because the danger about being a really smart Chekie is that you're calling certain things out so much all the time that you're ignoring all these fingers that you're pointing, and then you got more fingers pointing back at you. and so sure. It's
because you see stuff.
Yeah, you start learning words like projection and and shadow behavior and complexes, and then you're this is all that I'm infiltrating my mind with, and while the person's trying to talk to you about what they're needing, what they're feeling, what they're desiring.
Yeah, man, and I love how also what I've been hearing you say is you, at the end of the day though, you also give each other a pass, like to just just table it for a while and let's just keep it light and just be and allow each other to grow, and 1 step forward, 2 steps back, 3 steps forward, 1 step back. Sometimes she's rowing the boat more than you're rowing the boat, but eventually the boat travels forward together in small increments over time. It's making progress, and that probably ultimately was what keeps you guys together. I don't want to put words in your mouth, but you like you said, the Stairmaster analogy you gave, you look down, you're like, well, look how far we have come. We're making progress, and that's really the end game.
Yeah, and especially because with Sarah and I, our core chunk of what we believe in and what we are growing together is there. The rest is how we communicate day to day between each other, and how we spend the time in between. That's what we're not going, oh, well, my dream is to now live in a high rise in a big city. Like we're both not on that same page. But if she was like, hey, I want to move to Chicago and live on the 100th floor of the Willis Tower or whatever in a big condo, and even if we had the money to, pay it in cash, I'd be like, that sounds gross to me. Why are we doing that? And it would create conflict. And so, but since we're on the same page on so many levels, and I tell a lot of men, and I can extend this to women too, is be honest with what you want.
Yes,
because
please.
2 months into me I think 3 months into us knowing each other, maybe 4, I can't remember. It was within that window. we were sitting at a restaurant, and I casually asked her, not casually, but I asked her, "Are you willing to have more kids?" And then she stopped, thought about it. She goes, "Yeah, I'm willing to have more kids." And then 6 months into us knowing each other, she was pregnant.
Oh.
Yeah. So, but if she said no, that conversation would have ended there. And I go, "Oh, so this has been fun."
But Aleks, what if she changed her mind? I mean, maybe if that moment she didn't want to have more kids and she didn't take a moment to pause to think about it, she just knee-jerk, heck no, and then you walk. But after getting to know you for a few months and really settling in, like, she might reconsider, like, actually, I didn't think I wanted more kids, but maybe now I do because you're amazing or whatever.
That could be a thing. That could 100% be a thing.
Mm-hmm.
And yet at the same time, it depends on how long you guys are together and what the relationship is like. But I mean, I ask, frightening questions up front. What are your parents like? What are your dreams in life? How was your relationship with all your other exes? How many people have you slept with? Because I'm curious, not because I'm judgmental, because I'm in that same boat. I'm curious. And then I'm like, oh, what was that like? What was this like? So I'm curious about life. And at the same time, I want to know, based on what my values are, what I want in life, I'm going to share them with you. I want kids. And remember that conversation that says, I don't mind if she already has kids, but I want also a child of my own or children of my own. And are you willing to give that to me? And if the answer is a hard no, like you were like, absolutely no, then we're not, like if you tell me, I'm not, called to have children in this life as of yet, and I don't see it happening in the future up until, I can't give children anymore. Then I would go, well, great, that was fun. I really enjoyed our connection together. We're going to stay awesome friends, but we're not right for each other. And so she leaned in and she goes, yeah, I think I could do more. And then here comes, our now almost a half-year-old, 6.5-year-old, running around. So, but I tell people, practice scaring your dates away. And if they don't leave and you see them lean in, you got something special going on, and you should ride that out. Because it's dangerous for a Chek practitioner to go on Tinder dates, because you're going to see daddy flags, mommy flags, triggers, shallowness, and so many different factors. And I'm like piercing right through these veils, and they're so uncomfortable. And I'm enjoying the uncomfortableness, because it's probably the first interaction with a real person they've had in a long time. And they're over there being fake and thinking that I can't see through it. And this is what, society tells you have to do, show up as this like really nice buttoned up person. It's like, no, show up as yourself so I can know what I'm dealing with. So I don't wait 5 years to find out that you're actually not willing to grow, not willing to commit, not willing to do any of these things. So if you practice scaring your people away with honesty, you'll know right from the start whether that person's ready to tango or not.
Yeah, it's funny. You're making me think of our mutual friend, Kyle Kingsbury. I think he actually says that. He likes to basically, I don't know if he used that term, but I just recall him saying that at some point, that he used to do that put all the bad stuff right there. And if they still hung around, they were still interested, then they might have something. Because people do totally the opposite, don't we?
I mean, yeah. But
I mean, we wait till we move in together to fart, like people are married and they're like, oh, now I'm farting. Or people wait until they're married to be like, oh, finally we're married and committed to each other. By the way, that thing that you really like that I do in bed, I'm not doing that anymore.
Oh God, that's a bait and switch. That's not going to work. That's not a good plan.
Well, please, I know women who don't even like to use the bathroom while the guy's in the house. Like, wait a minute, this is a whole nother conversation. This is a human thing. Like, I think he knows you go to the bathroom. I think it's okay.
Yeah. If you guys have had sex and you've been in doggy style, he's seen your butthole. So there has to be poop coming out of that thing at some point in time. So this illusion that women don't poop needs to go, because it's really uncomfortable for me, for you, for everyone. Holding poop in all the time, like,
not healthy either.
Go poop. Yeah.
Well, so just to wrap that up, Aleks, has been so fascinating. But what I'm really hearing you say is, getting your core values up front and solid and in sync. And that's kind of what you can proceed. And the rest is really life or fluff. But making sure those core values, like for you, growth minded, like to be in nature, so similar to my core values. But for people, making sure that your core values are in sync is really the end game.
If you can, with a date, maybe like not the first time, second time, third time, after you guys like each other, if you guys can almost exchange what looks like wedding vows to each other, and they match up to the things that I value, and this is what you value. We're vowing to each other that we value these things, and when we don't value them anymore, we will change that. But if you truly tell people what you really value, you're vowing to them that this is true.
And then watch if the other person's living according to those values. Because a lot of people say the game, family's important, freedom's important. But when it comes right down to it, and people should check out episode 65 with me and your wife, Sarah, talking about freedom. But, are you living your values? Is their actions match up with what they're saying?
Yeah. How many people that maybe are watching this that have been on Tinder or on Bumble and whatever the other dating apps are, and then they put like in their profiles, I love to go hiking, and then they never go hiking with that person.
No.
I love to go on adventures, and then you never go on an adventure. You Netflix, chill, have dinner, watch a movie, and then you make no adventures. You make no hikes. You do nothing that's on your profile, and it starts there.
Yes. Yeah.
So it's basic stuff. And so if that person is willing to lean in and let go of FOMO of like, what else is out there? Because I'm a big subscriber. The grass is always greener on the other side, yet the grass is always greener where you water it, is what I think. And so if you're taking time watering your grass, your yard's going to look better than the next person's yard, because you're not looking at the neighbor's yard. You're busy trimming your trees and branches and sowing and seeding and pulling weeds and stuff like that.
And that's good advice to keep the relationship. Like you said, it's one thing to attract this ideal soul partner, but to maintain it is a whole nother ball game. And to do so means keep watering your own grass, keep growing yourself, investing in yourself. And like, I love that how you obviously will not react to something that can trigger you emotionally, but consider like, is there some truth in what she's saying right now? Could it be I am lazy, or could it be whatever? And, but that takes a tremendous amount of self-control and presence and maturity. And again, that's rare. So, but I'm glad to hear there are men like that out there, because I believe there are, that's for sure.
Yeah, especially if my blood sugar's not low, like this. I'm very reactive when my blood sugar is low. So
we all are.
My commitment to my family is to make sure that my blood sugar is on point all the time. And if it is low, I tell them that it's low, and I go eat, because then they kind of back up, because they know I can get blindsided. Yeah, I get hangry, and it's quick, and I'm like, oh shit,
Moods follow blood sugar one way or the other, either positive or negative. Yeah. That's 100% true, Aleks. 100% true.
So does willpower, by the way, as I'm sure you know well. Aleks, this has been amazing. I know I have to let you go. Obviously, we could talk forever. This is why we're friends.
I wish I was
with you right now, hanging out.
But
I'm looking forward to many more long conversations like this. Is there anything else on your heart that you just want to share with people before we wrap it up today?
Maybe that if people are following that little voice or that thing in their mind that's like, I don't know why I'm doing this, but I'm doing it anyway, at least trust the process. Trust the process, that it's going to work out the way it's supposed to work out. And don't forget to breathe. That's what I would share with people.
That's
excellent advice. And if people really ponder what you just said in depth, it's deeper than the surface of it too. I mean, really, you could meditate on that for a long time. Both of those great tips. All right, how can people find you, Aleks, and your work with Sara and what you do? Please direct us when they want to learn more about Aleks.
Our social media page, mine is health.performance.engineer, and our business one is primal_fusion, and that's on Instagram. And we have a community that people can come show up, and it's called Primal Pride. We do office hours for 2 hours every Monday, and we give our hearts and souls, and people ask anything that's on their mind, and then we fully break down what's happening. It's almost like a live coaching session.
Wow, what a value.
And everyone is listening and everyone is growing from it. And we've done it it's over a year now. And so that
with the two of you, with two high-level Chek coaches on one call.
Yeah. And so that's Primal Pride, and all our resources are dumped in there, and access to us live for 2 hours every week, every Monday, at staggered times. And if people want to know more about our coaching practice, they can go to primalfusionhealth.com. And if people smoke the volcano herbs and they want to know where they can get some herbs that we make, they're called Primal Fusion Herbs. They go to primalfusionherbs.com.
Can they come with you coming to make the smoke, because you are the master?
They can come here.
I would know. No, I mean, when they order the smoke, wouldn't that be great if you'd show up and here, let me make this for you? Because it's one thing to have the ingredients, it's nothing to have the chef.
Yeah, it is. I need to make some videos on that, because that.
Oh, there you go.
You're right. It is an art. You could put a little bit too much, too little, and bag it, ruin the bag instantly.
100%. 100%. Everybody, that will be in the show notes. Okay, all that great contact stuff that Aleks mentioned. Definitely check out their social media. Aleks is fantastic. And the Primal Fusion is an amazing, amazing resource, everybody, because they really do fuse science to back it up with their extensive education with spirituality. It's truly holistic. You're not going to get more authentic, heart-inspiring, intelligent people than the two of them, the power couple, Aleks and Sara. And if you want more on Sara, check out episodes 64 and 65. You can get more insight into their life together. And Aleks, my friend, thank you so much. This has been tremendously educational and interesting for me.
Thank you. Thanks for having me. I'm glad I can take the time and be on your show.
Me too. I feel like we've helped a lot of people. And guys, if this has helped you, or you know anyone you think it might be interested, thank you for sharing the show. And wow, leaving a quick review on iTunes would be amazing. I much appreciate it. And Aleks, until I see you next time or have you back on the show, thanks for being on Awakening Aphrodite with Amy Fournier.
Thanks. Thank you. Love you.
Love you, honey.
Would you like to support my mission to help empower people all over the world to be all of who they truly are? If so, please subscribe to the show, leave a review on iTunes, and share it with a friend. And if you're looking to take immediate action to align your energy and optimize your health, visit amyfournier.com. Thanks for listening to Awakening Aphrodite. Let's awaken her together in you. I'm your hostess, Amy Fournier, and I already can't wait to be with you again and for you to hear what I have planned for the next show.
Thanks for listening to Awakening Aphrodite with Amy Fournier. To learn more about Amy, check out her website, amyfournier.com. That's AMYFOURNIER.com. You can also check out Amy's live and on-demand virtual fitness and yoga classes, and sign up for her newsletter to receive a free mini ebook of 3 of her top tips for making holistic health a lifestyle. Again, that's amyfournier.com, and get your ebook sent to your email immediately. Connect with Amy on the daily on Instagram at FitAmyTV, FITAMYTV, and watch many of the podcast episodes and subtopic clips on her YouTube channel, which is also FitAmyTV. Enjoy, and we'll see you next time on Awakening Aphrodite.